Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Stories. Composers, you found your way to a quiet corner of the internet, a place where music and history meet, not in loud declarations, but in soft reflections. Here we drift through the lives of composers. We explore their struggles, their triumphs, and the music they left behind. Thank you for being here. If you find comfort in these journeys, I invite you to like this video. And if you'd like to return to more quiet stories of music and memory, you can subscribe. That way, you'll always have a soft place to come back to. A place where you can rest, reflect, and let music carry you into calm. So now, take a slow, gentle breath. Feel the rise of your chest, the quiet pause at the top, and the soft release as the breath falls away. Let that rhythm soothe you. Let the sound of these words become like waves on a quiet shore, steady and unhurried, drawing you deeper into rest. The story of a composer is not only dates and places, it is the quiet of childhood rooms, the echoes of laughter, the shadows of sorrow, and the tender way all of it finds its way into music. Each note is a memory transformed, a fragment of life set free in sound. You may notice as you listen that your body grows heavier, the way a blanket settles across the skin. Every sound outside of this story drifts further away. There is nothing you need to hold on to now. You can let go and simply float in the gentle current of words. Tonight we step into Russia in the mid-1800s. A land vast and untamed, where forests stretch endlessly toward the horizon and rivers reflect the pale glow of the moon. The winters are long, the air sharp and cold, the silence deep enough to seem eternal. With each breath, imagine that silence around you now. A stillness so complete it quiets the thoughts in your mind. A stillness wide enough to carry you softly, like snow falling on open fields, like night unfolding without hurry. It was here, in this world of contrasts, between tradition and the new ideas drifting in from the West, between silence and song, between love and loss, that Tchaikovsky's life began. From this soil of vast landscapes and tender emotions, his music would rise, a bridge between Russia and the wider world, and a voice that continues to soothe us even now. And so, with breath slowing and thoughts growing softer, we begin his story. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky was born in 1840 in the quiet town of Votkinsk, nestled in the rolling landscape of the Ural Mountains. From this point onward, we will call him simply Tchaikovsky, the name by which the world has come to know him. His first name belongs to the intimacy of family, but his last name carries the echo of history, tied forever to music that still sings across centuries. Take a moment to let that name settle in your mind. Tchaikovsky. Feel the sound of it drift through you, soft and lingering, like the fading resonance of a single piano chord. Each time you hear it, allow yourself to sink a little deeper into calm, letting his story guide you toward rest. Votkinsk was not a grand city, but rather a provincial town surrounded by forests and rivers, its seasons marked by harsh winters and lush, fragrant summers. Tchaikovsky was born into a family of gentle comforts, not wealthy, but not poor either. His father, Ilya, was a respected engineer working in the local mines. His mother, Alexandra, carried a softness, a warmth that filled their household with tenderness. Together they provided an environment that, for a time, shielded the young boy from the harsher edges of life. Picture that world for a moment. Wooden houses tucked close together, their roofs heavy with snow in winter. Smoke rising from chimneys, curling upward into the pale sky. The hush of night falling over the town, broken only by the crunch of footsteps in the snow. Imagine the child Tchaikovsky lying in his small bed, listening to the faint crackle of the hearth, feeling the safe nearness of family. Let that image soothe you, as if you too were wrapped in the quiet simplicity of that home. From his earliest days, Tchaikovsky was unusually sensitive. Where other children might shrug off small slights or hardships, he felt them deeply. A sharp word could bring tears. A moment of kindness could light him with joy. This sensitivity, which in many lives might have been seen as weakness, became the foundation of his artistry. For him, feelings were never background noise. They were vivid, consuming, and impossible to ignore. And as you hear this, notice the sensitivity within yourself. Notice the way your body softens when it feels safe, the way your breathing slows when you let yourself rest. That same sensitivity that shaped Tchaikovsky's music can now shape your own journey into sleep, tender, quiet, and deep. The first spark of music arrived early. Even before he could read or write, he showed an uncanny ability to remember melodies. His mother often played piano in the evenings, her hands dancing across the keys, filling their home with simple pieces. For the young boy, these sounds were not just pleasant, they were magical. He could recall every note, replaying them in his mind long after the music had stopped. Imagine that now. A room lit by a single candle, a mother at the piano, the warm sound of music unfolding slowly into the still air. Let yourself sit quietly in that room, letting the gentle notes drift over you, each one softening your thoughts, each one carrying you closer to dreams. His mother, Alexandra, was central to his early life. She nurtured his emotional world with kindness and attention. She recognized in him a depth of feeling that needed gentle care. With her, he felt safe to be himself, tender, vulnerable, impressionable. She encouraged his curiosity, not only in music, but in the small wonders of everyday life. The shimmer of light on snow, the sound of birds in spring, the rhythm of rain against the roof. All of it left lasting imprints, weaving into the tapestry of his inner world. And now, think of your own inner world, the small impressions of your day, the subtle details your mind holds on to. Tonight, you don't need to cling to them. Tonight, you can let them blur into softness, just as Tchaikovsky once let life's impressions dissolve into music. With every breath, let those impressions drift further away until only stillness remains. But childhood does not remain untouched by sorrow. When Tchaikovsky was just 14 years old, tragedy struck. His beloved mother fell ill with cholera, a disease that swept through communities with sudden cruelty. For the boy who adored her, who felt safe in the warmth of her presence, her death was devastating. It was the first great wound of his life, and it left an ache that never fully healed. Take a deep breath now, slow and gentle. Exhale softly, releasing the weight of that sorrow. Though it was his grief to bear, you can let it pass through you like a distant echo, fading with each breath, leaving you calm, leaving you still. Her absence marked him. For the rest of his life, Tchaikovsky carried a sense of longing, a yearning for tenderness that was forever out of reach. And yet, from this wound, music grew. It became his way of holding on to her, his way of translating grief into something beautiful. What could not be said in words found a voice in melody. What could not be mended by time was soothed by sound. And now, as you listen, feel the soothing quality of sound around you. The quiet rhythm of these words, the steady flow of your own breath. Notice how they cradle you, just as Tchaikovsky's music once cradled his broken heart. So his childhood in Watkins became a foundation both tender and fragile. It gave him love, sensitivity, and music, but it also gave him loss, a sorrow deep enough to shape his every note. Out of this mixture his art was born. His melodies would carry both the warmth of his mother's piano and the ache of her absence, forever entwined. Tonight, let that mixture become a lullaby for you. Warmth and sorrow, joy and longing, all folded together into the gentle fabric of rest. Let the story settle over you, like snow settling quietly over the earth. You are safe, you are calm, you are drifting, just as the young Tchaikovsky once drifted, between love and loss, between silence and sound. The boy who once sat listening to his mother's piano was now moving into a larger world, one that expected something far different from him than a life of music. And as we follow this part of his story, allow yourself to soften into rest. Imagine yourself walking alongside him, gently observing, without strain, without effort, just listening, just breathing. With every word, you can sink more deeply into calm, letting the rhythm of his journey carry you further toward sleep. When he was 10 years old, Tchaikovsky was sent to the Imperial School of Jurisprudence in St. Petersburg. The choice was not unusual for a family like his. Music was seen as a pastime, a pleasant refinement, but not a career. Civil service, on the other hand, offered stability, respect, and a clear place in society. His parents hoped he would follow this practical path, and so his education turned toward law and administration. Picture that journey, the young boy leaving the familiar woods and rivers of Votkinsk, traveling to the grandeur of St. Petersburg. Imagine the carriages, the clatter of wheels against cobblestones, the wide avenues of the imperial capital. As you see it in your mind, allow yourself to drift deeper, as though you too were moving through a long, slow journey, lulled by the steady rhythm of wheels turning on stone. The imperial school was demanding. Days were filled with studies in legal codes, administrative rules, and languages. The goal was to shape young men into future civil servants, men who would serve the machinery of the Russian Empire. It was a structured, formal world, and for Tchaikovsky, whose heart was tuned to music, it often felt distant from what he truly longed for. And yet, structure can bring its own kind of calm. Think of your own day, the schedules, the responsibilities, and now think of setting them down. You do not need to carry them in this moment. Here you are free of duty. Here you are resting, just as he longed to rest when lessons in law grew heavy. Despite the weight of his studies, Tchaikovsky could not let go of music. Quietly, almost in secret, he sought it out. He took piano lessons, played whenever he could, and listened for the melodies hidden in everyday life. While his classmates pursued law as their true purpose, he carried two lives at once, the expected life of a jurist and the secret, growing pull of a musician. Imagine him now, a young man slipping into a quiet room after a day of study. He sits at a piano, the room dimly lit, his hands moving softly over the keys. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, he finds the music that calms him, the music that feels like home. Let yourself feel the same calm as you picture it, your breath rising and falling like the gentle rhythm of notes echoing in still air. Though music was not yet his official path, the years in St. Petersburg widened his view of the world. The city exposed him to concerts, to performances, to art that stirred something deep inside him. The sounds of orchestras, the voices of choirs, the brilliance of symphonies, all of it awakened in him a longing too powerful to ignore. And as you hear this, you too can let longing soften into ease. There is nothing to chase right now, no goal to reach. You are simply here, breathing slowly, resting deeply. Just as Tchaikovsky's heart drifted toward music, your body now drifts toward sleep. Still, he tried to follow the path set before him. In 1859, he graduated and entered the Ministry of Justice as a clerk. It was steady work, organized and respectable. His tasks were the careful handling of documents, the daily routines of civil service. But though his hand copied official words, his heart kept beating in melody. Every moment at the desk only reminded him of what was missing. Picture that image. A young man bent over papers, ink staining his fingers, the sound of scratching pens all around him. But underneath it all, in his mind, a symphony swells. He cannot hear silence, only the pull of music calling to him. Let that duality wash over you, the noise of the world outside and the stillness of your inner self inside. Let the inner stillness guide you now toward quiet, toward sleep. It was during these years that the truth became impossible to ignore. The law was not his calling. Music was not a pastime. It was his life. Even in secrecy, it grew stronger. His lessons, his playing, his listening, all confirmed what his heart already knew. And now let yourself feel that certainty too, the certainty of rest. The certainty that tonight you do not need to struggle or search. Your body knows how to sleep. Your breath knows how to soften. Just as Tchaikovsky recognized music as his truth, you can recognize rest as yours. By 1862, when the St. Petersburg Conservatory opened under the guidance of Anton Rubinstein, Tchaikovsky made the decision that changed everything. He would leave behind the steady promise of civil service. He would step onto the uncertain, often difficult path of art. It was a choice born not of practicality, but of need. A need to let music be his voice, his work, his life. Think of your own choices. Think of the paths you no longer need to walk. Tonight, there is only one path. The path to calm, the path to dreams, the path to sleep. Follow it gently, step by step, as Tchaikovsky once followed the path from law to music. With each breath, move closer to rest. With each word, drift further into quiet. Tchaikovsky stepped into the halls of the St. Petersburg Conservatory, carrying the quiet certainty that music was now his path. The rooms were tall, lined with polished wood, and the soft echoes of footsteps on worn floors. Scores of every size and shape lay stacked on tables, waiting to be opened, studied, and brought to life. Here, in this ordered and yet profoundly alive space, he was no longer a boy sneaking piano lessons in secret. He was a student of music, fully immersed in a world where every note mattered and where melody and harmony could speak as clearly as words ever could. And as you follow him now, allow yourself to sink gently into calm. Feel your body soften, your shoulders ease, your breath settling into a slow, steady rhythm. Imagine the faint sound of a piano in the distance, the notes drifting through high ceilings and warm sunlight, carrying you into a space of quiet, a place where thought and tension dissolve. You are walking beside him, quietly, observing, breathing with the rhythm of the halls. Under the guidance of Anton Rubinstein, a figure both formidable and inspiring, Tchaikovsky began the rigorous work of mastering his craft. Rubinstein's presence was imposing, yet filled with care. He demanded precision, clarity, and discipline, yet encouraged the emotional depth that would come to define Tchaikovsky's music. Each lesson was a study in contrast. The careful shaping of form paired with the nurturing of feeling. Picture Tchaikovsky in a bright practice room, his small hands hovering over the keys, listening intently as Rubinstein's voice rose and fell with guidance and critique. Feel the calm of that space wrap around you like a soft blanket, each note a gentle ripple through the air, each pause a breath of quiet. The conservatory offered more than technical instruction. It opened a doorway to a broader world of music, symphonies, chamber pieces, operas, each filled with lessons to absorb, patterns to notice, and emotions to translate. Tchaikovsky listened carefully, taking in the grand orchestral works of Europe and the folk melodies of his homeland. He learned to blend them, sometimes hesitantly, sometimes with sudden insight, and each small success was a quiet triumph. Imagine the young composer in the library, poring over scores, fingertips tracing the lines of a symphony, feeling the vibrations of the notes even before they reached a piano. Let yourself drift with him, sliding gently along the contours of sound, each melody a soft step toward calm. Even amid the structure and discipline of the conservatory, Tchaikovsky faced moments of doubt. Sometimes a melody refused to form, a harmony seemed wrong, a rhythm would falter. He would pause, close his eyes, and listen for the music that lived quietly in his mind. Some days the lessons themselves felt heavy, and the critique of teachers even heavier still. And yet, in these small struggles there was a subtle beauty, a rhythm of effort and release that mirrored the tides of life itself. Picture these quiet, reflective moments, the room still except for the gentle scratching of pen on manuscript paper, and allow your own body to mirror that gentle ebb and flow. Each breath can rise and fall like a phrase of music, slow and soft, carrying you further into ease. Within the conservatory, Tchaikovsky began to discover his own voice. His early compositions were tentative, shy, yet unmistakably marked by his sensitivity and innate musicality. He experimented with Russian folk tunes, incorporating their lyrical shapes into formal structures he had learned from Western composers. Some melodies were bold, almost brash, others were soft and fleeting, whispers that lingered in the air. And as you imagine these first notes taking shape, feel yourself moving alongside them, your awareness softening, your mind quieting, your body sinking deeper into a state of calm. There were friendships, too, that wove themselves into these years. Fellow students shared lessons, advice, and small confidences. Together they played duets, listened to each other's compositions, and offered encouragement in moments of doubt. Tchaikovsky, though often reserved, formed bonds that would shape his understanding of collaboration and the shared joy of music. Picture a quiet evening in a practice room, two students leaning over a piano, the room lit by the soft glow of twilight, each note a gentle connection between them. Feel the same warmth, the same quiet camaraderie settling into your own body and mind. At times, the city of St. Petersburg itself became part of his education. Concerts in grand halls, performances in smaller salons, the sound of choirs filling cathedral spaces, all of it seeped into his consciousness. Tchaikovsky observed carefully, absorbing rhythms, harmonies, and textures, letting them mingle with his own thoughts. Imagine yourself seated quietly in a gilded concert hall, the soft murmur of the audience fading, the first notes of a symphony rising gently into the air. Let that music flow through you, each chord a gentle stroke on the canvas of calm inside you. His mornings often began with lessons in theory and composition. The rules of counterpoint, harmony, and orchestration were sometimes rigid, sometimes puzzling, yet they offered a framework in which creativity could bloom. Afternoons were for practice, hours at the piano, fingers dancing across keys, bringing ideas to life. Evening brought reflection, quiet walks in the corridors or gardens of the conservatory, where thoughts and melodies intertwined. Picture the long corridor, the soft echo of footsteps, the quiet rustle of a coat as someone moves past. Let that rhythm match your own heartbeat, steady, calm, patient. Evening was a particularly gentle time for Tchaikovsky. Alone at the piano, he would let melodies flow without self-criticism, allowing the music to rise and fall naturally. Sometimes the notes seemed to carry the memory of his mother, sometimes the whisper of Votkinsk's forests, sometimes the soft longing that seemed always to follow him. Imagine a single candle flickering on the piano, the shadows dancing on the walls, the notes spilling softly into the room. Let your own mind move with them, slow and unhurried, each note a soft push toward calm, toward sleep. There were moments of tension as well. Some of his teachers demanded more than he felt capable of giving. Sometimes a composition would be met with silence, other times with gentle critique, and yet Tchaikovsky learned to listen without judgment, to accept and refine. He understood that music, like life, often requires patience, persistence, and trust in the slow unfolding of effort. Allow yourself to take a similar approach now, each breath slow, each thought soft, each movement gentle, letting go of tension, letting calm flow in. By the end of his conservatory years, Tchaikovsky had begun to emerge not only as a student, but as a young composer, ready to speak through music. His early works hinted at the symphonic grandeur, the balletic lyricism, and the emotional depth that would later define him. Every piece, every exercise, every tentative phrase carried a piece of his heart. The longing, the sensitivity, the quiet joy, and the melancholy that had followed him since childhood. Picture the first performance of one of these compositions, a small audience seated quietly, the notes drifting into the air, resonating softly. Feel the calm and the satisfaction, the gentle pride that comes from expressing what was always inside, now shared. Through these years, Tchaikovsky discovered the rhythm of his own creativity. Sometimes the music would come easily, flowing as naturally as breath. Other times he would wrestle with ideas, shaping them slowly until they found their true voice. The conservatory taught him that music is both discipline and freedom, structure and release, effort and surrender. Imagine that balance now. The rise and fall of melody, echoing the rise and fall of your own chest, each breath a note in the symphony of stillness. Even as he progressed, he never lost the quiet, secret joy of discovery. The first hint of a harmony that pleased him, the first melody that seemed to truly express his feelings, brought small, luminous moments of happiness. Picture him scribbling notes late into the night, candlelight flickering over manuscript paper, the soft scratch of pen and occasional sigh, the only sound. Let yourself feel that same gentle satisfaction, that quiet contentment as your mind slows, each thought softening, each muscle relaxing. By the time his formal studies concluded, Tchaikovsky had shaped not only skill but confidence. He had learned to navigate the rigorous expectations of his teachers, the delicate currents of friendship and collaboration, and the quiet, persistent voice of his own inspiration. Music was no longer simply a refuge. It was a calling, a presence in every thought, every day, every quiet moment. And as you picture him, ready to move into the wider world, let that presence fill you too. Each breath a note, each heartbeat a gentle rhythm, carrying you deeper into calm. Tchaikovsky left the conservatory with the knowledge that he had found a home in music. He had learned technique, yes, but more importantly, he had learned to trust his heart, to follow the quiet instincts that had guided him since Votkinsk. And as you follow him through these halls one last time, imagine the echo of keys fading into the distance, the soft rustle of pages closing, the hush of a world waiting. Let yourself drift with that quiet. Feel the tension dissolve. Feel your body rest. The conservatory had given him a gift beyond education. It had given him the certainty of purpose, the clarity of voice, and the slow, gentle unfolding of confidence. Music was no longer a dream deferred. It was his life. And as this chapter closes, allow the same certainty to settle within you. There is nothing to chase tonight, no challenge to meet, no expectation but calm. Let your mind follow the soft rise and fall of melody. Let your breath echo the rhythm of notes, and let yourself drift slowly and peacefully towards sleep. When Tchaikovsky stepped away from the sheltered world of study in St. Petersburg, the days of being a student quietly closed behind him like a door slowly resting against its frame. Before him stretched the next part of his journey, Moscow with its uneven streets, clattering carriages, and a sense of urgency in the air. The city did not have the refined polish of the capital, but it offered something else. A place that seemed to breathe possibility. And in this setting, he accepted his first true professional role as a professor of harmony at the Moscow Conservatory. The transition was not without its weight. To stand at the front of a classroom was far different from sitting within one. He was young, just beginning his own career, yet suddenly he was the one tasked with guiding others. He carried his scores, his books, his carefully written notes into the lecture hall, and with a mixture of nervousness and resolve began to speak. His students looked to him for clarity, for structure, for insight into the language of music. And though doubt sometimes clung to him, he pressed forward, discovering in teaching both a challenge and a way of deepening his own understanding. As you imagine him standing there, chalk in hand, gestures quiet and precise, let yourself feel the rhythm of that classroom. The stillness of attentive students, the quiet rustle of papers, the faint sound of a breeze pressing at the windows. It is a slow and steady picture, one that invites calm. You too can let your breath fall into a steady rhythm, soft as the sound of a pencil tracing notes onto a page. Teaching filled his days, but composition filled his nights. After lectures were finished, and after the corridors of the conservatory had fallen silent, he would return to his own room and pour his energy into writing. The first symphony began to take shape in those dimly lit hours. He named it Winter Daydreams, a work that captured both his longing and his imagination. He wrote with intensity, with the urgency of a man who felt music pressing within him, demanding to be heard. Yet as the notes grew into movements, as pages upon pages were filled, the process was not easy. He found himself battling against his own uncertainty. Each orchestral color he painted, each theme he set down, felt at once promising and fragile. Could it hold? Would it stand? He worried over the balance of instruments, the pacing, the very soul of the piece. And when rehearsals began, the doubts grew louder. Musicians stumbled over passages, conductors struggled with the flow, and he felt the music slipping away from the vision he had held so tightly. Even in these moments of struggle, there was something quietly human, the recognition that creation is never smooth, that even beauty must pass through storms. As you listen to this, let yourself take comfort in that truth. Just as he wrestled with his symphony, you may wrestle with your own thoughts tonight. Yet struggle itself can be part of the process, part of the journey toward peace. Let those worries soften, like the last notes of rehearsal fading into silence. The premiere of the first symphony was difficult. The players, uncertain with the work, could not fully bring it to life. Tchaikovsky, seated in the audience, felt a wave of disappointment crash over him. He was plagued by self-doubt, so much so that in letters he confessed he often wondered whether he was truly suited to be a composer at all. The sensitivity that had marked him since childhood now weighed heavily, amplifying every criticism, every flaw. Still, even in the midst of this discouragement, small sparks of recognition began to appear. Friends, colleagues, and a few discerning critics could sense that there was something in his work, an originality, a freshness of voice that might grow into greatness. They could hear the promise behind the struggles. In Russian circles, whispers of his talent began to spread. And though Tchaikovsky himself often doubted, others began to believe. There is something deeply reassuring in this, that even when one cannot see their own light clearly, others may catch a glimpse of it. Let yourself rest in that thought for a while. Even if tonight you doubt yourself, even if you feel unsure, it may be that someone sees in you a brilliance you cannot yet recognize. Breathe into that comfort and allow it to carry you gently deeper into rest. The years in Moscow were not only about teaching and composing, they were also about enduring. Financial worries pressed in. The workload was heavy. At times, loneliness wrapped around him like a cold cloak. Yet through all of this he continued to write. Smaller works emerged, alongside the larger symphony. Songs, piano pieces, and orchestral sketches flowed, each carrying a fragment of his inner world. And in this steady labor he found the beginnings of resilience. Picture him now, seated at his desk late at night, a small lamp glowing beside him, sheets of music scattered in untidy stacks. Outside the city murmured, but inside there was only the scratch of pen across paper, the faint hum of melodies taking shape in his mind. It is a scene of quiet persistence, and as you imagine it, you may let that same persistence fill you too, not as effort, but as calm endurance. The kind that whispers, "It is enough to keep going, one gentle breath at a time." In these early Moscow years, the pattern of his life began to reveal itself. Struggles followed by breakthroughs, doubts followed by recognition. It was not a straight path, but a winding one. And through each turn he was learning, not only about music, but about himself. He was learning that fragility and strength could live side by side, that to feel deeply, though painful, was also the source of his artistry. Let that thought ease over you now. Your own sensitivities, your own tender places are not weaknesses to be hidden. They may be the very heart of your strength. Rest in that awareness, as though you too are letting a quiet symphony play softly within you, a music only you can hear. By the close of these first years in Moscow, Tchaikovsky had not yet achieved triumph in the grand sense. The world did not yet know the composer he would become. But seeds had been planted. The struggles had shaped him. The disappointments had taught him. And recognition, still modest, had begun to grow. He was not broken by his doubts. He was tempered by them. And so, this stage of his life settles into quiet pause. You can allow it to settle within you too, like a melody drawing to its gentle conclusion. It reminds you that growth is often quiet, unseen, slow. That even in times of uncertainty, you are being prepared for what is to come. Let your breath fall softly. Let your thoughts grow lighter. Just as Tchaikovsky's first struggles gave way to the beginnings of triumph, so too can your restless mind give way to calm. Drift, as though carried on the final notes of his winter daydreams, into a place of stillness, into a place of peace, into sleep. When the first glimmers of recognition began to reach Tchaikovsky in Moscow, he was still weighed down by fragile nerves and persistent doubt. His early successes had not erased the strain of constant criticism or the anxiety of exposing his music to the world. Yet out of this atmosphere of uncertainty, a remarkable presence entered his life, a presence that would change the very shape of his days. Her name was Nadezhda von Meck, a wealthy widow of immense means, whose fascination with his music grew into a quiet devotion. She did not seek his company in the usual way. She sought instead a correspondence, a steady stream of letters that would bind the two together in a bond unlike any other. And as you imagine this turning point, let your body sink into comfort. Feel your shoulders loosen, your breath lengthen, and your mind soften. Just as a single letter can carry warmth across a great distance, let your thoughts drift gently, like folded pages passing quietly from one hand to another. At first her message arrived as a curious introduction, an admirer who wished to support his art without imposing upon his solitude. Tchaikovsky, ever sensitive to the complexities of patronage, might have hesitated. Yet her sincerity was undeniable. She offered not just financial freedom, but something more subtle, a sanctuary of understanding. She believed in his music as few others had, not merely as notes on a page, but as the voice of a soul she longed to know. For Tchaikovsky, who often felt misunderstood by colleagues and isolated by his temperament, this faith was a balm. Their letters began tentatively, polite words strung carefully across paper. Soon, though, they deepened, carrying reflections on music, life, philosophy, and the loneliness that seemed to haunt them both. Night after night, Tchaikovsky would sit at his desk, pen in hand, composing not a score but sentences meant for her eyes alone. In those words he poured honesty vulnerability, and a gentle longing for connection that he dared not show the world. As you picture this quiet ritual, imagine yourself at that same desk, a single candle glowing, the hush of the evening wrapped around you. Let the scratch of a pen become the rhythm of your breath, slow and even, as if each exhale were ink flowing calmly across the page. The most curious feature of their bond was its very distance. Nadezhda von Meck and Tchaikovsky agreed never to meet in person. It was an understanding that gave their relationship a peculiar purity, a space free of social awkwardness, expectation, or judgment. In letters, they could be fully themselves. She confessed her devotion to his work, her need to understand him through the language of music. He shared his fears, his self-doubts, his fragile hopes. And between them, a vast correspondence grew, hundreds of letters, then thousands, each a thread weaving a fabric of unseen companionship. At times, he called her his best friend. Though they had never spoken face to face, she was, for him, a kind of mirror, reflecting back his worth when he himself could not see it. And for her, his music was a lifeline, carrying beauty into days that might otherwise feel hollow. Feel the tenderness in this exchange as you breathe. Two souls kept apart by choice, yet closer than most who share daily lives. Allow your own thoughts to soften, as if you too are listening to a voice carried by quiet ink and folded pages. The gift she offered extended beyond letters. With her wealth, she gave him freedom. He no longer needed to depend entirely on teaching or commissions. He could devote himself fully to composition, following the currents of inspiration wherever they might lead. And in these years of patronage, some of his most enduring works came to life, pieces infused with both the intensity of his private struggles and the serenity that her support allowed. He began to explore new forms with greater courage. Chamber works, symphonies and ballets flowed more steadily, no longer hindered by the constant worry of financial strain. Music that had once seemed too ambitious to attempt now became possible. He could listen deeply to the melodies within him, shaping them without compromise. As you drift with him through this creative time, imagine the slow blossoming of a garden in spring. Each flower opening at its own pace, each stem bending toward the light. Let your body mirror that unfolding, soft and unhurried, as if your own breath were the rhythm of petals unfurling. Yet even in this sanctuary his old doubts were never fully gone. He would send her a score with pride, then fret endlessly over whether it was truly worthy. She would respond with reassurance, urging him to trust in his genius, to continue. Their letters often carried this rhythm, his worry met by her steady faith. It was a dialogue of tension and release, not unlike the phrases of a symphony. Sometimes he confessed to her the depth of his melancholy, the shadows that crept across his mind in the quiet hours. She answered with compassion, offering words of encouragement, never scolding, never demanding. In these exchanges she became not just a benefactor but a confidant, holding space for his fragile heart. Let that compassion wash over you now, like a soft blanket laid gently across your shoulders. Each word she wrote was a comfort, and in this retelling, let that same comfort seep into your body, loosening what remains tense, easing what still feels heavy. The paradox of their relationship was striking. They were so close in words, yet deliberately apart in life. On rare occasions, they even crossed paths without acknowledging one another, both honoring their vow of distance. To some, this might seem strange, even cold. But to them, it was sacred. Their bond was kept alive precisely because it lived in the realm of imagination, of ideas and emotions untethered by the mundane. And in this distance lay freedom. Tchaikovsky could reveal himself fully without fear of judgment in daily life. Nadezhda could adore his spirit without the complications of society's expectations. Together they lived in a delicate, dreamlike state of connection, a friendship that was at once deeply real and yet entirely untouchable. As you think of this unusual companionship, let yourself float into that same dreamlike space. A bond without edges, a closeness that requires no presence, only understanding. Breathe into that sense of calm, as though you two are part of something vast yet gentle, unseen yet profoundly felt. In the years that followed, his compositions grew more confident, more expansive. The support she offered was not only financial but emotional. She reminded him that his art mattered, that his sensitivity was not weakness but gift. Out of this encouragement came works that would later define his legacy, their melodies carrying echoes of both solitude and deep connection. He often wrote to her about the process of creation, how melodies would arrive unbidden, how harmonies would circle in his mind before finding their form. She responded with keen interest, asking questions, marveling at his descriptions. Their letters became not only confessions, but also meditations on the nature of art itself. Picture these exchanges as soft waves rolling onto shore, each one carrying meaning, each one retreating to make way for the next. Let your breath fall into that same rhythm, arriving, departing, steady and endless, lulling you into deeper calm. Yet this extraordinary relationship, like all things, was not without fragility. Over time, tensions arose, misunderstandings flickered. There were moments when silence stretched too long, when his anxieties or her circumstances created distance even greater than their chosen one. Still, the bond endured, sometimes frayed, but never fully severed. For Tchaikovsky, those years of support became a refuge he would always remember. Even when later troubles came, when his health faltered, when critics returned with sharper words, he could look back to those letters and find strength. The memory of being believed in, of being sustained by someone who saw his worth, was a foundation he carried long after. Allow that sense of being held to seep into your own rest tonight. You too are supported, even if in ways unseen. You too carry the quiet proof that your presence matters. Let this truth ease your mind, as if a gentle voice were whispering encouragement across a distance, reminding you to let go, to breathe, to rest. Nadezhda von Meck eventually withdrew from his life, circumstances changing in ways that left him bewildered and saddened. The flood of letters slowed, then stopped. Their extraordinary correspondence ended, not with dramatic farewell, but with quiet absence. And though he grieved the loss of that companionship, the years it had spanned had already given him what he most needed: faith in himself. Even in solitude he continued to compose, carrying the memory of her encouragement like an echo. Works he created in those years bore the marks of her unseen hand, not in notes she wrote, but in the confidence she had kindled within him. And as this season of his life draws to its close, let yourself rest in the knowledge that even bonds that pass can still leave gifts behind. Every kindness, every letter, every unseen support lingers quietly, shaping us long after. So too with him. Her absence did not erase her impact. Soften now into that thought, into the way memories can cradle us even as time moves forward. With each breath, feel yourself more at ease, more at peace, more ready to let go of the day. Just as Tchaikovsky found solace in the unseen, you too can find it now, carried gently toward sleep. In the quiet after the years of correspondence and steady patronage, Tchaikovsky felt both steadier and yet deeply restless. His music flowed more freely, his reputation grew more secure, but within his private life shadows lingered. The letters with Nadezhda von Meck, as profound as they were, could not answer every longing. Beneath his calm exterior, a storm gathered, a storm that would soon lead him into one of the most turbulent decisions of his life. And as you picture this new stage unfolding, Let yourself take a slow, deep breath. Feel the air moving gently through you, rising and falling like the rhythm of a tide. Just as Tchaikovsky drifted toward choices heavy with emotion, you can drift toward calm, each inhale and exhale guiding you into stillness. In 1877, a letter arrived from a woman named Antonina Milyukova, a former student of his, who confessed an overwhelming admiration for him. She professed her love with an intensity that startled him, describing her devotion in language that was impossible to ignore. For a man as sensitive as Tchaikovsky, her words pressed against both his heart and his fears. He longed, in some quiet corner of his soul, for stability, for companionship, for something that might ease the loneliness that trailed him through life. But he also knew himself, his fragility, his distance, his complicated affections. He had long grappled with the understanding that his inner world was both rich and treacherous. His passions were deep, yet his nerves were delicate. Love was not merely an emotion for him, it was a storm that could lift him to unparalleled heights of creativity or crush him under its weight. And yet, in a moment of emotional pressure, perhaps even desperation, he resolved to marry her. Friends and colleagues were astonished. Some begged him to reconsider. But Tchaikovsky moved forward with a kind of fatal determination, as though by stepping into this union he might silence the doubts and shadows that haunted him. Imagine, for a moment, the weight of that choice, the tension of a heart torn between longing and fear. Let yourself feel the heaviness melt from your own shoulders now, as though those burdens need not be carried by you. Each breath can be lighter, each thought quieter, releasing what feels too heavy to hold. The marriage was brief, but its impact was immense. Almost from the beginning, Tchaikovsky realized the union was unbearable. Antonina's devotion was real, but it was also suffocating. She demanded closeness he could not give, intimacy he could not offer. Within weeks he felt trapped, his already fragile nerves unraveling under the strain. Every gesture, every conversation felt charged with tension. Every glance seemed to probe him for emotions he could not summon. The private joy he had found in music and reflection now became a scarce and fragile refuge. The music that had once been his sanctuary faltered. His letters grew darker, his health declined. At one point, overwhelmed by despair, he even attempted to end his own life by standing in the freezing waters of the Moscow River. He emerged from it, shivering, broken, but alive, carrying forward with a heart even more fragile than before. It was a moment that revealed not only the depths of his suffering, but also the resilience that, however thinly, clung to his being. Allow yourself, as you hear this, to sink deeper into comfort. The pain of his struggle need not touch you directly. Instead, you can let it flow past you like a story carried on a distant wind. Your body remains soft, safe, supported, as though wrapped in quiet arms of rest. Unable to endure the marriage, he left Antonina after only a few months. The scandal rippled through society, drawing whispers and judgments. For Tchaikovsky, the retreat was both humiliating and necessary. He fled abroad, seeking solitude in Switzerland and Italy, trying to gather the broken pieces of his spirit. The landscapes around him, the serene lakes, the sweeping valleys, the quiet streets, became mirrors of the stillness he longed to reclaim within himself. The air, scented with pine and water, carried a subtle promise that life, though harsh, could offer respite. In these lonely travels he wrote letters to his brother, to von Meck, pouring out the anguish of his decision. Yet, even within despair, music began to return to him, not light-hearted melodies, but sounds steeped in sorrow, longing, and a fragile kind of beauty. Out of heartbreak, new works slowly emerged, carrying within them the shadows of his pain and the resilience of survival. His compositions became confessions of a heart both wounded and aware, as if each note were a step along a path leading away from darkness and toward understanding. Visualize him walking alone along the shores of a foreign lake, the water calm and endless before him. Let your own breath mirror that stillness. Each exhale spreading wide and soft, like ripples fading into glassy quiet. Each inhale gathering only what is gentle, only what is calm. Picture the sunlight glinting on the surface, reflections dancing slowly like memories of joy mingled with sorrow, reminding you that even in the interplay of light and shadow, beauty exists. His compositions in these years reflected both turmoil and transcendence. The Fourth Symphony, begun during his marriage and finished in the wake of its collapse, was charged with a sense of fate pressing heavily on human life. In it he poured the chaos of his emotions, the inevitability of suffering, and the fragile sparks of hope that flickered even in darkness. To hear it is to sense both despair and resilience intertwined. Its movements carry the weight of a man confronting himself, the clashing of deep fear with a desperate search for meaning, the struggle of human vulnerability meeting the heights of artistry. He himself described it as a confession in music, an admission of life's struggles and the need to carry them with dignity. And though critics and audiences were divided at first, the work soon became one of his most powerful statements, proof that even anguish could be transformed into sound that moved hearts. Let that idea carry you now. The truth that even in pain, something beautiful can emerge. You too can release tension into something softer. You too can allow your breath to turn heaviness into calm. Each inhale gathering peace, each exhale carrying it gently through your body. Back in Russia, whispers of the failed marriage continued, but Tchaikovsky slowly regained his footing. The generous support of Nadezhda von Meck continued, providing him shelter from financial ruin and emotional collapse. Her letters, often long and reflective, offered not just reassurance but subtle guidance, drawing him back toward the realm of creativity. Her faith in him never wavered, and that constancy became a lifeline. His letters to her during this period were often raw, full of confessions of his weakness, his despair, and yet also his gratitude. She, steady as ever, responded with compassion, reminding him of the worth of his art. And so, step by step, note by note, he began to rise again. Though solitude wrapped itself around him, it was no longer purely loneliness. It became instead a kind of protective cocoon, a place where he could heal and let music speak what words could not. In this solitude he discovered not emptiness, but a fertile ground for reflection and creation. The introspection, which might have once seemed a curse, now yielded insight. Every moment of quiet became an opportunity to turn pain into sound, thought into melody, and memory into expression. Picture him there, seated at a piano in the dim light of evening, his fingers brushing keys with hesitation, then slowly gathering strength. Each note falling into the room like a raindrop, steady and soft. As you listen in your imagination, let those notes fall through you as well, guiding you toward rest, toward release. Let the imagery of his delicate hands coaxing beauty from keys remind you of your own capacity to transform challenges into something gentle, something meaningful. The years following his collapse with Antonina were not easy, but they were transformative. He came to see that his emotional life, fragile as it was, could still be a source of profound creativity. Where others might see only sorrow, he found music. Where others might find only ruin, he found resonance. In this paradox, heartbreak fueling beauty, Tchaikovsky discovered a truth about himself that would carry him forward. He would never know peace in the ordinary sense, but he would know the solace of creation. His works became, more than ever, vessels for his inner life, carrying the weight of his sadness and the shine of his tenderness into the world. And as this part of his story softens into pause, let your own breath move like music, rising, falling, slow and unhurried. You do not need to carry every struggle into this night. You can let go now, resting in the knowledge that even sorrow can lead to beauty, even turmoil can lead to calm. Tchaikovsky's brief, painful marriage had nearly destroyed him. But it also revealed, in the starkest way, the depth of his resilience and the endless well of feeling that lived within him. From this turmoil would come music that touched countless souls, proof that even a wounded heart can sing. In every measure, every swelling crescendo and quiet diminuendo, there is the echo of his trials, and yet, in each, there is also triumph. The victory of creation over despair, of art over anguish. So rest now with that thought, that even the hardest moments can give rise to gentleness, that even brokenness can open a path to calm. And as you drift deeper into stillness, that the memory of his music, born of love, born of sorrow, carry you gently toward sleep, toward reflection, toward the quiet understanding that fragility and strength can coexist in harmony, just as sorrow and beauty can exist in the same measure. In the quiet after the turbulence of earlier years, Tchaikovsky found himself stepping into a world both familiar and new. His solitude, once heavy with sorrow, had begun to take on a gentler quality, like a soft blanket draped over a restless mind. You might imagine this softness as you settle into your own space now, letting your body sink lightly into comfort. Breathe slowly and fully, feeling the air drift in and then drift out, carrying with it the remnants of tension and thought. Let yourself feel safe, supported, cradled, as if the world around you is hushed in quiet anticipation. It was in this calm that the first ideas for Swan Lake began to emerge. The ballet was a new kind of challenge for Tchaikovsky, a fusion of music, story, and movement that demanded delicacy, imagination, and patience. He approached it as one might approach a secret garden at dusk, where each melody is a petal and each harmony the gentle rustle of leaves. The swans of the tale floated not only on stage but in his mind, their grace mirrored by the trembling of strings, the tender rise of woodwinds, and the soft murmur of piano notes tracing the story's ebb and flow. Picture the first strains forming in the stillness of a quiet room. Let your own breath mimic the slow, unhurried rhythm of those notes, rising and falling, curling softly through your chest. Imagine the sun fading behind distant rooftops as a melody drifts into the air, delicate as the wings of a swan, carrying with it calm, gentle, and unbroken. The premiere of Swan Lake, however, did not unfold as smoothly as its composer had imagined. The dancers stumbled, the orchestra faltered, and critics, unsure what to make of this unusual blend of drama and movement, were cautious, even dismissive. Tchaikovsky felt the familiar sting of doubt, yet deep within, the music itself remained unshaken. It pulsed with a quiet, resilient beauty, like a candle flickering steadily in the darkness. Let yourself feel that steadiness now. Even when things around you feel uncertain, there is a center, calm and unwavering, that you can return to with each breath. Alongside his ballets, Tchaikovsky continued to write symphonies and operas, each composition a mirror to his inner life. The Fourth Symphony, begun in a period still tinged with sorrow, carried both the weight of destiny and the faint glimmer of hope. His opera, Eugene Onegin, flowed with the Russian soul, full of longing, regret, and fleeting joy, yet spoke to universal human emotions, allowing distant listeners to recognize their own experiences reflected in his music. Each note, each crescendo seemed to breathe, carrying the listener gently into the quiet corners of the heart. As you imagine him at the piano, hands hovering above keys, let your body relax in parallel, Feel the rhythm of your breath as soft as a lullaby, the gentle rise and fall like the cadence of a symphony that unfolds slowly, soothingly, in a quiet room at twilight. Let the tension of your day drift away with every exhale, leaving only the tender, steady pulse of calm. Traveling across Europe, Tchaikovsky encountered new cities, new stages, and new audiences. Paris, Vienna, London, each offered him applause, curiosity, and subtle challenge. Yet even as strangers admired his music, his thoughts often wandered home, to the familiar streets and forests of Russia, to the lake near his childhood home, to quiet evenings at the piano. This sense of longing, homesickness tempered by the gentle thrill of creation, infused his work, giving it both intimacy and universality. Let yourself imagine that gentle pull, the sensation of distance softened by memory and imagination, as your own body drifts further into ease and comfort. During these middle years, Tchaikovsky also learned to embrace the rhythm of his own solitude. He moved through his compositions with a patient, almost meditative focus, allowing melodies to form slowly, like clouds drifting across a still sky. Swan Lake, though imperfect in its premiere, became a living document of this patient attention, a ballet that required delicate attention from both orchestra and dancers. Let your mind settle into a similar patience, imagining each note unfolding with quiet inevitability, each movement soft and unhurried. Tchaikovsky's travels also offered inspiration. He absorbed the artistry of foreign theatres, the nuances of different musical traditions, and the subtle rhythms of cultures far from his own. Each observation entered his music like water into soil, nourishing ideas that would later bloom in ballets and symphonies. Let yourself feel the same gentle nourishment, the way calm observation, even of the smallest detail, can soothe and inspire, bringing serenity and insight into your own mind. The world of Tchaikovsky's middle years was a mixture of light and shadow, struggle and grace. Critics and audiences could misinterpret, stumble, or hesitate, yet the music itself remained a refuge, a constant presence carrying him through uncertainty. Each composition became both expression and balm, translating the fragility of his emotions into sound that could be felt even from a distance. As you listen to this story, let yourself feel carried, cradled by the rhythm of his life and the gentle flow of your own breath. By the end of this decade, Tchaikovsky's reputation was secure. Swan Lake and subsequent ballets began to find their proper place in the world, symphonies were performed to acclaim, and his presence abroad affirmed the universal reach of his art. But it was not recognition alone that sustained him. It was the act of creation itself, the quiet, meticulous shaping of melody, the tender sculpting of harmony, the careful weaving of rhythm, that brought him solace. Each note was a heartbeat, steadying, reassuring, a reminder of endurance and resilience. Imagine now the final measures of a rehearsal. The piano's last note drifts into the hush of the room. A dancer's footfalls fade. Outside the evening is soft and still. Let that softness settle into your own chest and shoulders. Let your mind imagine the calm, as if the world has paused, and you can simply breathe and be. Tchaikovsky's music from this period carries both lightness and depth, the soaring joy of melody tempered by the gentle weight of memory and experience. His ballets and symphonies are filled with spaces for reflection, quiet pauses between notes that allow the listener to rest, to breathe, to let feelings drift softly like autumn leaves on a lake. In these spaces, even sorrow is gentle, even struggle can become a lullaby. As the years progressed, he became increasingly aware of the duality within his own heart, joy and sorrow, hope and despair, the personal and the universal. Music offered a channel for all of these, a way to weave the intricate, sometimes turbulent threads of life into something coherent, something tender, something enduring. Imagine yourself as he might have, listening to a melody unfolding, soft and unhurried, each phrase guiding you into relaxation, each rise and fall mirroring the natural rhythm of breath. Consider the quiet resilience that defined these middle years. Tchaikovsky moved through life with sensitivity and courage, carrying sorrow and solitude as companions, transforming them into art that could soothe, captivate, and endure. Let your own body and mind mirror this journey. Breathe deeply, slowly, and allow the tension of the day, of the mind, of the heart to ease away. Imagine yourself carried by the music, by the gentle cadence of creation, and let each note, each thought, each pause lead you further into calm. Tchaikovsky's ballets and symphonies of the middle years are, above all, a testament to the power of gentle persistence. Even in moments of uncertainty or doubt, he created spaces of beauty and reflection. His music, alive with both tenderness and strength, offers a kind of sanctuary, a quiet place where hearts can rest. Let that sanctuary fill you now, softening every edge, guiding you into the stillness that waits beneath the noise of life. And as you drift now, imagine the soft echoes of Swan Lake, the tender swell of a symphony, the delicate pause between notes, all carrying you, like Tchaikovsky himself carried his own fragile heart, gently forward into rest. Here, in this space, the struggles and triumphs of a life devoted to music become a lullaby, and the world outside can wait, leaving only the quiet beauty of sound, the gentle rise and fall of breath, and the soft unfolding of calm. The later years of Tchaikovsky's life carried him further than he had ever imagined, across oceans, into new cities, and towards stages filled with listeners who had never heard his name. Yet even as he travelled, the rhythm of solitude and reflection remained at the heart of his days. You might let yourself settle now, sinking lightly into your chair or bed, feeling the gentle support beneath you. Inhale slowly, allowing your chest to expand as if drawing in the wide open air of a faraway land. Exhale softly, releasing any lingering tension, letting your body become quiet, soft, and ready to journey alongside him. In 1891, Tchaikovsky embarked on a voyage to America, a journey both exhilarating and humbling. He crossed the Atlantic aboard a grand ship, the waves rocking gently beneath him, the horizon stretching endlessly before his eyes. Imagine the gentle sway as the ocean carries him forward, the rhythm of the sea like a lullaby, each rise and fall easing the mind into calm awareness. Let your own breath match that ebb and flow, a soft inhale rising like a wave, a slow exhale falling and receding, letting your thoughts drift quietly with it. The purpose of this journey was monumental. Tchaikovsky was invited to conduct at the opening of Carnegie Hall in New York City. The honor was immense, yet it was not only recognition he felt. It was also a strange mixture of homesickness and pride, a gentle ache for the familiar mixed with excitement for what lay ahead. The melodies of his homeland traveled with him, tucked like small treasures in the folds of his heart, waiting to unfurl upon foreign ears. As you picture him stepping onto the stage, imagine your own body and mind poised, alert yet relaxed, ready to receive the gentle unfolding of music as it travels from heart to heart. The concerts themselves were a triumph. The audience, composed of strangers who had never felt the weight of his joys or sorrows, listened with rapt attention. Every note, every swell of the orchestra carried both his personal experience and a universal language of feeling. Tchaikovsky understood, in a deep and quiet way, that music was the bridge between worlds. It could travel beyond borders, beyond language, and touch something intimate within each listener. Let your own heart feel that reach, gentle and expansive, as if the melodies are brushing softly against your chest, stirring a calm warmth that spreads from your center outward. Even amidst applause and admiration, Tchaikovsky felt the pull of home. He wrote letters during his travels, sketching in words the quiet landscapes of memory, the forests, rivers, and lakes of Russia, and the intimate corners of rooms where he had composed in stillness. These recollections mingled with the excitement of the present, creating a delicate tension, a sense that he belonged both here and there, in the world and in the quiet of his own soul. You can imagine that feeling as you inhale gently, drawing in both comfort and curiosity, exhaling slowly, letting the contrast soften, merging into a serene balance. This journey marked a turning point. Tchaikovsky's music was no longer confined to Russia, no longer tethered only to the familiar. It resonated internationally, reaching audiences who recognized not just technical brilliance, but emotional honesty. In that recognition, he glimpsed a new identity, a composer for the world, someone whose heart and art were not bound by geography or culture. Each city he visited, each orchestra he conducted, was a reminder that music's language is universal, and that one person's devotion to expression can ripple outward to touch countless lives. Let your own mind feel the expansiveness of that idea, the sense that calm, beauty, and understanding can travel far beyond the limits we imagine. The journey was not without its quiet moments of reflection. At night, Tchaikovsky would often stand by the window of his hotel room, gazing at streets unfamiliar yet full of their own rhythm, watching the soft glow of lamps and the gentle bustle of people moving in patterns both predictable and surprising. He would close his eyes and imagine the forests of Russia, the familiar light on a lake, the soft patter of rain on a piano window. Let your own eyes close for a moment and picture a similar scene, the comforting hush of night, a faint breeze brushing against your skin, the awareness of your own breath as it moves in gentle rhythm. Throughout the American tour, Tchaikovsky found a delicate harmony between excitement and reflection. Each performance was a new opportunity, yet each quiet moment was a reminder of the stillness that nourished his creativity. It was in this balance that he truly felt the expansiveness of his identity, not merely as a Russian composer, not merely as a man of fame, but as a messenger of feeling, a vessel carrying emotion in its purest, most subtle form. You can imagine that balance now, feeling the rise and fall of your breath, the gentle stretching and releasing of your muscles, letting calm and attentiveness coexist in harmony. Even far from home, the emotional landscape of Tchaikovsky's music continued to reflect a tension of personal longing and the joy of connection. He understood that feeling deeply was not a burden, but a source of strength. Each note he conducted, each subtle dynamic, each tender phrase was imbued with this awareness. Let yourself absorb that lesson, that the gentle attention to feeling, even in moments of distance or uncertainty, can provide comfort, clarity, and a quiet inner strength. The tour also offered Tchaikovsky moments of pure observation. He saw new cities, new cultures, and new ways of life, and he absorbed these quietly, like sunlight filtering through leaves. These impressions would later surface in compositions that carried subtle hints of rhythm and color from lands beyond Russia, yet always filtered through the lens of his own sensitivity. Let your own mind drift with the same ease, noticing details softly, allowing impressions to pass like clouds moving across a sky, gentle and unhurried. By the time Tchaikovsky returned to Russia, he had gained a renewed sense of perspective. He understood that his music, born of personal sorrow and delicate beauty, had found resonance far beyond the borders of his homeland. And yet he also knew the quiet power of stillness, of reflection, of allowing the heart and mind to rest between the notes of life. Picture yourself now in a quiet room, safe and supported, the distant echoes of music lingering in the air, each note a gentle caress on your awareness, each pause a chance to release tension and soften. His identity as a world composer brought with it not only pride, but also a deep humility. Tchaikovsky recognized that his greatest gift was the ability to offer listeners a space to feel, to dream, and to rest within sound. Music became, for him and for his audience, a bridge to serenity. A gentle reminder that even amidst change, even across oceans and unfamiliar streets, there is a quiet place that can be reached through melody. Let that thought settle into your own body now. The knowledge that calm, beauty, and connection exist, accessible through breath, through attention, through gentle awareness. In the evenings, after performances and social obligations, Tchaikovsky often returned to a place of personal meditation. He would sit at a piano in a quiet room, fingers tracing the contours of keys that had become familiar companions, letting melodies unfold slowly, tenderly, like soft clouds drifting across a twilight sky. Let your own hands and body soften now. Let the rhythm of your breath match the gentle movement of imagined fingers over keys, each inhale gathering serenity, each exhale releasing worry, each note a lullaby for the heart. As he continued to travel and compose, Tchaikovsky came to embody a balance between personal introspection and outward expression. The music he created during this period carried both the intimacy of his private reflections and the expansive reach of public performance. Each work was simultaneously a message to himself and a gift to the world. Imagine yourself receiving that gift now, letting the calm, rich tones fill your mind, each pause, each gentle swell, guiding you further into relaxation and reflection. By the end of his American journey, Tchaikovsky had solidified a remarkable understanding that home is not a single place, but a feeling that can be carried in the heart, that identity is not fixed by borders, and that the music born of honesty and vulnerability has the power to reach across continents. Let your own awareness settle into that same understanding, the knowledge that calm, beauty, and a sense of belonging can exist within you no matter where you are, no matter the circumstances. Tchaikovsky, the composer for the world, moved forward, carrying the weight of memory, the lightness of creation, and the quiet joy of connection. Let that presence linger with you now, gentle and reassuring, a reminder that even in motion, even amidst change, there is a quiet place within where music, peace, and reflection can dwell. As Tchaikovsky moved into the final years of his life, his music took on a new dimension, one that mingled imagination, nostalgia, and profound emotion. These were years in which the fragility of life and the depth of feeling intertwined, allowing melodies to bloom that would endure far beyond his time. You might let yourself settle now, finding a comfortable place where your body is supported, your limbs soft, and your mind free to drift. Inhale slowly, feeling the air expand gently, and exhale with the same softness, letting tension fall away like leaves drifting from a quiet tree. In 1892, Tchaikovsky turned his attention to a new ballet, The Nutcracker, inspired by E.T.A. Hoffmann's tale of toys and childhood wonder. He envisioned a world where magic and innocence intertwined. The score he composed sparkled with imagination, each note a delicate brushstroke painting a fantastical landscape. Strings trilled like the shimmer of fairy wings, woodwinds whispered secrets of dancing snowflakes, and the deep resonance of the cello hinted at mysteries lurking just out of sight. Imagine now a softly lit room. You can picture the keys beneath Tchaikovsky's fingers, the gentle rise and fall of his hands, the faint rustle of papers, and the quiet anticipation as melodies begin to flow. Let your own breath mirror the music, rising and falling like a soft lullaby, guiding you deeper into calm. Each note carries a touch of wonder, a spark of delight, a gentle reminder of the magic that can exist in the smallest moments. Although the premiere of The Nutcracker in 1892 did not immediately bring universal acclaim, the music itself held a quiet certainty, a kind of magic that would only grow with time. Audiences may have been puzzled by the fantasy and whimsy, yet the melodies were resilient, imbued with an innocence and joy that could not be diminished. Let that resilience settle in your own awareness, a reminder that even when recognition is delayed, beauty and imagination endure quietly like soft stars glowing in a twilight sky. In these years, Tchaikovsky's symphonic work also reached new depths of emotional expression. His final symphony, the Pathétique, premiered just days before his death in 1893, stands as a testament to the full complexity of his inner life. Every movement carries weight. The first, a surge of passion and tension. The second, a delicate waltz that floats like memories through a hazy afternoon. The third, a march tinged with melancholy yet also resilience. And the fourth, a slow, haunting farewell, each note unfolding as if from the very soul of the composer. Let yourself breathe slowly as you imagine the swell of the symphony. Each inhale gathers softness. Each exhale releases what is heavy. Feel the music flow gently around you, like a river carrying reflections, memories, and quiet truths. You do not need to grasp every detail. Instead, allow the sound to move through you, filling empty spaces with gentle presence, carrying you toward calm and comfort. In the Nutcracker, Tchaikovsky explored delight and innocence. In the Pathétique, he revealed the depth of sorrow and farewell. These two works, though contrasting in spirit, share a remarkable intimacy. Both are windows into a heart that understands joy and grief, wonder and despair all at once. Imagine the tender weaving of these emotions, like light drifting through leaves, soft and unhurried, filling your mind with the quiet richness of feeling. Even as the world around him hummed with expectation, Tchaikovsky retreated into the rhythms of his own reflection. He would spend hours at the piano, tracing each phrase with meticulous care, letting the music flow through him as both expression and solace. Each chord, each pause, each gentle rise and fall became a meditation, a conversation with his own heart. Let your own body and mind join in this meditation, inhaling calm, exhaling tension, letting the quiet music of thought and breath fill your awareness. The creation of the Nutcracker brought him a peculiar joy. It was not merely a ballet. It was a return to the imaginative world of childhood, a realm where play and wonder could exist without restraint. In this world, snowflakes dance and toys spring to life. The ordinary becomes extraordinary, and the listener is invited to drift with the music into a place of gentle enchantment. Let your own imagination wander here, picturing soft lights, swirling snow, and delicate figures moving in time with the music, each movement a whisper of calm and delight. In the Pathétique, however, the journey is quieter, more introspective. The final adagio, often called a musical farewell, is suffused with the awareness of mortality, the fleeting nature of life, and the fragile beauty that exists even in endings. Imagine that slow, deliberate movement, each note falling gently, echoing softly in a vast, quiet hall, touching a part of the heart that understands impermanence. Let your own breath match that cadence. Slow, soft, intentional. Each exhale releasing weight, each inhale drawing in quiet clarity and gentle comfort. Tchaikovsky's health, already delicate, would not long endure the demands of travel, composition, and emotion. Yet even in these final days, his music carried a transcendent quality, a sense that creation itself is a kind of immortality. Each ballet, each symphony, each delicate movement of a note was a gift, an offering of solace and beauty that would outlive the fragile vessel of his life. Let that thought settle around you, that even the smallest gestures, the softest sounds, can leave enduring traces of calm, comfort, and wonder. Imagine, for a moment, the quiet of a rehearsal room or concert hall. The air is soft, the echoes of the piano still lingering, and the gentle rustle of paper and instruments is a lullaby in itself. Tchaikovsky's presence feels near but unobtrusive, guiding the music with delicate care. You too can let yourself exist in this space, still, supported, and gently attentive. Each breath a wave of calm, each heartbeat a quiet measure in a symphony of rest. The Nutcracker and the Pathétique together embody the full range of Tchaikovsky's emotional world: wonder and sorrow, celebration and farewell, delight and reflection. Both invite the listener to journey inward, to experience the richness of feeling and the quiet joy of simply being present. Allow yourself to follow that invitation now. Picture the gentle lift of a melody, the soft fall of a chord, the tender pause that opens space for reflection. Let your body soften, your mind quiet, your awareness filled with the gentle music of this moment. Even after his passing, Tchaikovsky's music continued to ripple outward, touching hearts across generations and continents. The Nutcracker's snowflakes still swirl, its toys still dance, and the Pathétique's tender farewell still resonates, carrying with it the quiet truth that beauty and impermanence are intertwined. You can imagine those sounds drifting toward you now, like a soft evening breeze carrying calm, comfort, and the gentle embrace of enduring artistry. Tchaikovsky's final masterpieces remind us that even in endings, there is grace. Even in sorrow, there is a tender beauty, and even in life's fleeting moments, there is music that can carry us gently forward. Allow that calm to remain with you now, a steady, gentle current guiding you into quiet reflection and rest. And so, as the final notes drift into silence, picture yourself cradled in the soft, luminous space of music, your body supported, your mind serene. Here, the magic of the Nutcracker and the tender farewell of the Pathétique meet in quiet harmony, inviting both composer and listener to rest, to dream, and to feel the delicate, enduring presence of beauty. In the spring of 1893, Tchaikovsky's life entered its final, fragile chapter. His health, long delicate, wavered under the combined weight of years spent in relentless creation, constant travel, and the intensity of his emotions. The circumstances surrounding his death remain shrouded in mystery, debated in historical accounts, a mixture of rumor, speculation, and the unknowable truths of a life lived so openly in music, yet so privately in heart. And yet, even amidst uncertainty, one truth is unmistakable. His passing left a profound emptiness, one that rippled through his family, friends, and admirers, and eventually across nations. You might allow yourself to settle now, finding a place of comfort where your body is fully supported, where limbs relax and the mind drifts easily. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling it expand gently, filling your chest with calm, and exhale softly, releasing any tension. Imagine the quiet presence of a room filled only with stillness, the kind of stillness that allows thought and feeling to float freely, unhindered by the weight of the outside world. Tchaikovsky's final days, though shadowed with frailty, were still touched with the persistent light of music, the beauty he had cultivated throughout his life spilling quietly into the spaces around him. When news of his death spread, grief swept across Russia like a silent tide. Thousands of mourners, strangers, and acquaintances alike gathered in hushed reverence to honor the man whose melodies had become part of the national soul. Streets and concert halls were filled with soft whispers and the low murmur of sorrow, a collective understanding that someone extraordinary had left the world, leaving behind both a profound void and an enduring treasure. Imagine that same quiet enveloping you, a gentle calm settling over your shoulders, your chest, your entire being, as if you too are part of that hushed congregation, feeling connected to the weight of loss and the beauty of remembrance alike. Yet even as mourning filled the air, Tchaikovsky's music began to return immediately to the world. Concert halls and theatres echoed once more with the familiar swell of symphonies, the delicate whisper of piano phrases, and the soaring heights of strings and woodwinds. Each performance, whether by novice students or seasoned musicians, became a testament to the resilience of beauty. Though the composer's presence had departed from the earthly realm, the melodies he had crafted carried him forward, a living, breathing extension of his spirit. Picture, in your mind's eye, a softly lit hall, the echo of a piano chord lingering gently in the air, the resonance of strings rolling softly toward the back of the room, and allow the sound, even imagined, to fill you with ease and quiet wonder. Tchaikovsky's ballets continued to enchant audiences far and wide. Swan Lake, with its hauntingly ethereal swans gliding across imagined lakes, the Sleeping Beauty steeped in romance and timeless grace, and the Nutcracker, sparkling with the whimsical innocence of childhood. Each work became a living testament to his imagination, precision, and tender understanding of emotion. Every pirouette, every arabesque, every careful rise and fall in the music carried the unmistakable imprint of his heart. These ballets, though performed without him present, maintained a quiet dialogue between creator and observer, a gentle communion of artistry and audience. Imagine these ballets unfolding softly before you, lights dim, the delicate movement of dancers echoing the rise and fall of melodies, each step and note creating a ripple of calm that washes over you, tender and unhurried. His symphonies and concertos likewise continued to stir hearts long after his passing. In the swelling crescendos and quiet diminuendos, listeners could feel both his vulnerability and his strength. The tenderness of his music, born from a soul both fragile and profound, resonates still, a reminder that human emotion, no matter how fleeting or intense, can be captured, shared, and transformed into enduring beauty. Picture a single phrase, a simple motif from one of his symphonies, rising gently through the air, vibrating in the quiet corners of your mind, reaching the heart and coaxing a soft sigh of recognition and peace. Even in absence, Tchaikovsky's legacy proved unshakable. His compositions teach that fragility is not weakness, that sorrow can coexist with beauty, and that expression can become a form of immortality. Every note he wrote carries traces of his own experiences. The triumphs and despair, the quiet moments of introspection, the bursts of joy and delight. These works endure, not only as technical achievements but as vessels of emotion and connection, capable of touching hearts across generations, continents, and cultures. Imagine the gentle reverberation of a piano key, the delicate trill of a flute, the swell of strings. Even imagined, these sounds create a soft current that carries reassurance, stillness, and reflection through your entire being. Tchaikovsky's life was marked by contrasts. Moments of profound joy alternated with deep sorrow, creative bursts with solitude, triumph with fragility. In these contrasts, however, lay the brilliance of his artistry. Music became a sanctuary, a conduit for the complexity of his emotions, a space where vulnerability was not only allowed, but transformed into something universally resonant. Even when his body faltered, his compositions remained steadfast, continuing to stir emotions that words alone could never convey. You can imagine yourself surrounded by these enduring melodies, each one a soft brush stroke, painting a world where heartache and hope coexist, where fragility and resilience intertwine in quiet harmony. Through the decades, as new generations of performers and listeners discovered his works, Tchaikovsky's voice persisted, soft yet unmistakable. His music speaks of the human capacity to feel deeply, to endure, and to create beauty even amidst challenge. The ballets, symphonies, and concertos he composed continue to be performed with reverence and care, each interpretation a continuation of his presence, a living thread connecting the past to the present. Let that thought settle gently within you, a reminder that art carries its own enduring life, offering comfort and inspiration long after its creator has gone. In contemplating Tchaikovsky's final days and the legacy that followed, one is struck by the extraordinary potency of his work. Even the smallest gestures, a delicate ornament in a piano phrase, the subtle phrasing of a violin, the nuanced interplay of woodwinds and brass, reflect a mind and heart attuned to the quiet beauty of life. Each composition, whether grand or intimate, offers a place for reflection, a sanctuary for contemplation, and a gentle companionship for the soul. Imagine these moments unfolding around you, each note a ripple of calm that threads through your awareness, leaving you lighter, steadier, more at ease. Tchaikovsky's life reminds us that even the most fragile hearts can leave profound imprints on the world. He experienced heartbreak, isolation, and vulnerability, yet he transmuted these experiences into music capable of touching countless lives. In this, there is a quiet, enduring lesson that tenderness and sensitivity are not limitations but strengths, capable of creating beauty that transcends time. Allow that thought to sink into you, soft and unhurried, like a river meandering through a gentle valley, carrying the richness of experience and the calm of reflection. The final days of Tchaikovsky's life were also a testament to the persistence of artistry beyond the mortal frame. His compositions became not just memories but living companions, echoing through concert halls, rehearsals, and private moments. The melodies themselves became a language of consolation, imagination, and tenderness, inviting listeners to step into a world shaped by a heart that understood both sorrow and delight, fear and joy. Picture yourself in a quiet hall, the first note softly striking the air, the sound weaving a luminous thread through your senses, and allow that gentle current to carry you into reflection and peace. As the music of his ballets, symphonies, and concertos spread further across continents, Tchaikovsky's influence grew. Audiences felt the emotional depth of his work, sensing both the personal vulnerability behind every phrase and the universal resonance of beauty. In every swell of the orchestra, every delicate solo, and every measured pause, there is an invitation to witness, to reflect, and to rest within the gentle embrace of his artistry. Let your mind drift through these imagined performances, each one a soft echo of his enduring presence, a reminder of the power of art to soothe and inspire. Even after the passage of more than a century, the tenderness in Tchaikovsky's music continues to speak to listeners, performers, and dreamers. There is a profound intimacy in his compositions, a sense that each melody is a whispered confession, a tender sharing of his own heart with the world. In these works, the quiet beauty of his soul can still be sensed, delicate yet resilient, vulnerable yet radiant, ephemeral yet eternal. Imagine those soft, lingering notes filling your awareness, a gentle tide carrying calm, warmth, and reflection across the landscape of your mind. Through all of this, the enduring truth of Tchaikovsky's legacy is clear. Even in the face of life's fragility, one can create beauty that endures. His life, though brief and often fraught with struggle, left behind a treasure of sound, imagination, and tenderness. Each composition is a reminder of the human capacity to endure, to feel deeply, and to transform personal experience into something universally resonant. Picture yourself wrapped in this quiet legacy, each note a soft embrace, each phrase a gentle reminder that beauty can persist, even beyond the confines of life itself. And as the echoes of his life fade gently into memory, imagine the soft, luminous presence of his music surrounding you. Each melody, each carefully crafted harmony, is a thread of tenderness, an enduring touch from a heart both fragile and profound. In this quiet, resplendent space, Tchaikovsky remains present, a companion, a witness, and a gentle guide through the emotional landscapes of life. Let yourself rest here, held by the resonance of enduring melodies, carried softly into reflection, peace, and the awareness that artistry, tenderness, and beauty are eternal. As the story of Tchaikovsky's life comes to its gentle close, the music he created lingers like a soft glow, wrapping around memory and imagination alike. From the quiet streets of Vodkinsk, where he first heard the stirrings of melody, to the halls of St. St. Petersburg, where his early compositions struggled for recognition, to the grand stages of Europe and the world, his journey was one of contrasts, fragility and strength, sorrow and joy, introspection and public acclaim. Allow yourself to settle now, drawing a slow, deep breath in and exhaling softly, letting your body release any tension, letting your mind drift lightly on the quiet current of remembrance. Tchaikovsky's early years were filled with both tenderness and loss, his sensitive nature shaped by the comforts and tragedies of childhood. Music became his refuge, a sanctuary where he could explore the vast landscapes of emotion that the world itself could not fully contain. Even as he studied law and navigated the expectations of society, his heart remained attuned to sound, to the whisper of a note, the swelling of a chord, and the quiet magic of rhythm. Imagine the young composer seated at a modest piano, fingers hesitating, then brushing lightly over the keys, each note a small bloom of expression, each pause a space for reflection, as though the music itself were breathing with him. Through the turbulence of his emotional life, the brief, ill-fated marriage, the pangs of loneliness, and the intense correspondence with Nadezhda von Meck, Tchaikovsky discovered that sorrow could deepen understanding, that heartbreak could become music. The letters he exchanged, filled with vulnerability and honesty, carried both comfort and subtle guidance, tethering him to a world of human connection even while he retreated into solitude. Picture him walking along the shores of a quiet lake, the reflection of sunlight dancing on the water, each step a gentle rhythm echoing the music forming in his mind. Let that same calm settle over you, a soft tide of reassurance and presence. As his reputation grew, Tchaikovsky's music expanded in scale and ambition. The creation of Swan Lake, with its haunting swans gliding across imaginary lakes, and his operas, symphonies, and concertos, revealed a composer able to marry Russian soul with universal emotion. Each work reflected both his personal intensity and his capacity to communicate across hearts and cultures. Imagine the strings rising in a delicate crescendo, the woodwinds whispering secrets, the piano adding subtle color, and allow those imagined sounds to flow through you, quieting thought and inviting reflection. In his later years, Tchaikovsky's journeys took him across Europe and even to America, where his music graced the opening of Carnegie Hall. Homesickness mingled with pride as his melodies traveled beyond Russia, now touching audiences around the world. Even amidst admiration, he retreated inward at times, seeking solitude where he could listen deeply to his own heart and the music it carried. Imagine yourself in that quiet space, notes rising gently like mist, the air soft, your mind and body held in a tender embrace of stillness. The creation of the Nutcracker brought forth a world of imagination and delight. Strings shimmered like fairy wings, woodwinds danced with the playfulness of snowflakes, and the resonant tones of the cello hinted at mysteries lurking just beyond sight. Even though audiences of his time may have been puzzled, the music contained a quiet certainty, a magic that would endure, a gentle invitation to explore joy and wonder. Picture the soft, glimmering stage, dancers moving with quiet elegance, melodies floating around you, lifting you into calm and reverie. And yet, alongside delight came depth and farewell. The Pathétique Symphony, premiered just days before his death, revealed the full sweep of his emotional world. Passion, melancholy, tenderness, and reflection interwove in a slow, haunting farewell, each note a mirror of a life intensely felt. Let your breath match the cadence of the music. inhaling softness, exhaling tension, letting the quiet swell of the symphony carry you into introspection, comfort, and gentle understanding. His final days, though marked by fragile health and uncertainty, did not diminish the reach of his art. Thousands mourned him, and yet his music immediately returned to fill the silence, a testament to the enduring power of creation. Concert halls, theatres, and homes resonated once more with his symphonies, ballets, and concertos, carrying the tenderness of a heart both delicate and profound. Imagine that sound surrounding you now, a soft, luminous presence that fills empty spaces with reassurance, warmth, and the quiet joy of beauty sustained. Tchaikovsky's life and work remind us that fragility and strength can coexist, that sorrow can be transformed into joy, that personal struggle can yield creations that endure beyond a lifetime. His melodies invite us to witness the full spectrum of human feeling: grief and delight, longing and hope, despair and resilience. Each note is a gentle bridge between past and present, a quiet companion for reflection, and a soft guide into peace. Picture yourself cradled in the resonance of his music, held gently by each phrase a wave of calm, a tender pulse echoing through mind and body. Even now, more than a century after his passing, Tchaikovsky's presence continues to unfold. His ballets are performed worldwide, his symphonies continue to stir souls, and his concertos invite both performers and listeners into intimate dialogue. The magic of the Nutcracker continues to sparkle, snowflakes twirling, toys dancing, the music offering a gentle embrace. The haunting farewell of the Pathétique continues to move hearts, reminding us that beauty persists even in endings. Imagine the swirl of snow, the quiet hush of a concert hall, the tender fall of each note, and let yourself rest in that serene, luminous space. Tchaikovsky's legacy is, above all, a legacy of tenderness. Each composition carries traces of vulnerability and resilience, of a heart attuned to the smallest, most subtle truths of life. His work reminds us that the human capacity to feel deeply, to create and to connect is unending. Even in the face of sorrow and impermanence, he left behind a body of music that continues to cradle, console, and inspire. Let those thoughts settle within you, a soft tide of reassurance and warmth flowing through every corner of your awareness, wrapping you in calm and reflection. As you imagine the final echoes of his melodies fading gently into silence, picture the spaces they leave behind, open, luminous, and peaceful. There is no rush here, no requirement to hold every detail, only the invitation to be present in the resonance of life and art intertwined. Tchaikovsky's music, like a soft current, continues to flow through generations, through hearts and homes, through quiet evenings and grand performances alike. Each note, each phrase, each swelling of melody is a touch from the past, a reminder of the enduring capacity of beauty to soothe, inspire, and guide. And so, as the final echoes drift away, imagine yourself cradled in that same soft, luminous space. Feel the gentle rise and fall of breath, the quiet stillness of your body, the serenity of mind and heart. Tchaikovsky's life and music remind us that even amidst fragility, art endures, even amidst sorrow, beauty persists, even amidst endings, there is grace. His melodies remain a companion, a gentle presence, a witness to the human heart, tender, radiant, and profoundly enduring. Rest here now in the quiet resonance of a life fully felt, a music fully realized, a legacy that continues to unfold softly, endlessly into the world. Let your breath flow slowly and evenly, your mind float gently, your awareness cradled in calm. Tchaikovsky's presence lingers in the luminous spaces of imagination and memory, a tender guide leading into reflection, peace, and the gentle understanding that beauty, expression, and tenderness are eternal.